Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to absolutely shatter a deeply held scientific belief and look at how 5 incredible animals basically came back from the dead. Between, painstaking field research, some pretty unbelievable luck, and cutting-edge genetic engineering, we are completely blurring the line between dead and alive in the natural world. Let's get into it. For generations, we were all taught this one absolute truth, right? That extinction is forever. Once an animal was gone, boom, that was the final chapter. End of story. But, as you're about to see, our understanding of this supposedly permanent rule is being completely rewritten. We are literally witnessing species pull off a vanishing act in reverse. So, mapping out today's explainer, here's what we're looking at. First, the extinction myth. Then, phase 1, pure luck. Next up, phase 2, extreme conservation. After that, phase 3, genetic resurrection, and finally we'll wrap up with the future of extinction. All right, let's start with section 1, the extinction myth. So, scientists actually have a specific name for this reverse vanishing act. They call it a Lazarus species. Basically, this happens when a species completely disappears, gets officially stamped as extinct by the scientific community, and then, against all odds, is miraculously rediscovered alive and well. It really just proves that our field surveys, well, they don't always tell the whole story. Moving right along to section 2, phase 1, pure luck. To really grasp this first phase, you have to consider the absolutely staggering timeline of the Coelacanth. For a solid century, we only knew about this quote-unquote dinosaur fish from fossils. Scientists firmly believed it got wiped out during the exact same asteroid event that took out the T-Rex. I mean, we're talking roughly 66 million years ago. As far as science was concerned, these guys were literally ancient history. But that 66 million year assumption, that was completely shattered just before Christmas in 1938. A museum curator named Marjorie Courtney Latimer was examining a regular fishing net down in South Africa and spotted something that should have been impossible, a living, breathing coelacanth. Actually, it turns out these fish live incredibly deep in the ocean. We're talking up to 650 feet down, which is exactly how they managed to stay hidden from us for millions of years. Though, to be clear, they are still critically endangered. And we see a remarkably similar miracle with the Bermuda Petrel. This bird essentially ghosted humanity for over 300 years. After invasive predators showed up, the world totally gave up on them. I mean, the last recorded sightings were way back in the 1620s. But then, fast forward to 1951, and an expedition remarkably found 18 nesting pairs just clinging to survival on these rocky little islets. Today, thanks to intense conservation efforts in Bermuda, their tiny, hard-fought population is still alive. Which brings us to section 3, phase 2, extreme conservation. It's kind of wild to think that the American alligator, this prehistoric apex predator that literally survived the dinosaurs, almost didn't survive us. By the time we hit the mid-20th century, relentless overhunting and the devastating use of deadly pesticides, specifically DDT, caused their numbers to just completely plummet. We basically drove this ancient killing machine to the absolute brink of total collapse. To put that into perspective, by the 1950s, only about 100,000 alligators were left scattered across 10 southern states. That is a dangerously low bottleneck for a species like this. But thankfully, humanity stepped in. Through hunting bans in the 1960s and then the crucial banning of DDT in 1972, this fragile population didn't just stabilize, it completely exploded. Today, we're looking at a current population of over 5 million alligators thriving across the American South. It seriously remains one of our greatest conservation triumphs. But an even more dramatic rescue happened with the California Condor. This is North America's largest flying bird we're talking about. By the mid-1980s, things like habitat loss and lead poisoning had created this absolutely terrifying bottleneck. The species was essentially functionally extinct in the wild. Just to give you an idea of how bad it was, there were exactly 22 of these magnificent birds left on the entire planet. Just 22. So faced with complete and total loss, scientists took this unprecedented gamble. They went out and captured every single one of those remaining 22 wild birds. It was a massive, desperate captive breeding program led by places like the San Diego Zoo, the Los Angeles Zoo, and various federal agencies. And you know what? That extreme intervention actually paid off. By 1992, they were releasing the first captive-bred birds, and today, that initial 22 has grown to a total population of over 560 birds, with nearly 350 of them flying totally free in the wild. Okay, let's dive into section 4, phase 3, genetic resurrection. The subject of this next huge scientific milestone is the Pyrenean ibex, which is also known as the Bucardo. This was a wild mountain goat pushed to the absolute brink by centuries of intense hunting. So much so that by the late 1990s, there was literally only one single female left in the entire world. Her name was Celia. And then, tragically, on January 6, 2000, Celia was actually crushed by a falling tree. It's just crazy. With her sudden death, the scientific community officially declared the species completely extinct.
But, plot twist, Celia's story didn't actually end there. See, researchers had previously frozen skin samples from her in liquid nitrogen. A team of scientists took this massive leap forward using a super complex biological process called somatic cell nuclear transfer. Long story short, they cloned her. They implanted 57 embryos into surrogate domestic goats, and, astonishingly, in July 2003, one of those surrogates gave birth to a living baby Bucardo. For the very first time in human history, a previously extinct species was walking the earth again.
Now, I do have to share that this incredible comeback was, unfortunately, tragically short. The cloned baby only survived for about 7 minutes due to a lung defect, so the species basically became technically extinct all over again. But, and this is the crucial part, those brief 7 minutes proved a deeply poetic and absolutely unforgettable scientific truth. The wall between extinct and alive has a door in it. And science, well, science had just found the key. And that perfectly sets up our final section, Section 5, the future of extinction. This science is moving at breakneck speed right now. By utilizing the molecular scissors of CRISPR technology, companies like Colossal Biosciences are quite literally pushing the boundaries of reality. I mean, they've set these wildly ambitious goals to actually bring back the woolly mammoth by 2028. 2028! They're also aiming to resurrect the Tasmanian tiger by editing the DNA of its closest living relatives. It really shows that we are no longer just passive observers of extinction, right? We're actively becoming architects of resurrection.
These 5 unique stories really show us that extinction doesn't necessarily have to be the final chapter anymore. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question to chew on. Which animal do you think deserves to come back next? Jump into the comments below and let us know your thoughts so we can keep this fascinating conversation going. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.